This is every single book that I read in 2024, or at least the physical ones that I read. And in this video, I'm going to review every single one of them with a little twist. So let's go. Hi, I'm Ben, welcome back to my channel, and before we get into reviewing all of those books, I thought it'd be fun to do some reading stats for 2024 so that you can get a sense of the shape of my reading year and all of the books that I'm going to tell you about today. I know there are some stats nerds out there. This is just going to be quite a whistle-stop tour of my reading year enabled by the stats that I get from the story graph. So last year I read 101 books. That is 15 more than I read in 2023. And to be honest, it's a bit too many, and I've already set myself a specific reading goal to read fewer books in 2025. But it's not just the number of books that the story graph tracks for you, it is also the number of pages. And I read 27,235 pages last year. That's just over 4,000 more than the year before. So the additional 15 books that I read were not just tiny little pamphlets or poetry collections. They work out on average to about 285 pages or so, and my overall page average was just under 270. Obviously not every book that I read last year was exactly that average amount, and so we can have a look at the breakdown of books by their page number. About 60% of the books that I read in 2024 were 300 pages or less. I guess that tallies with like that average page count that I worked out, and about 40% were between 300 and 499 pages. I think my biggest disappointment about this is that I didn't read a single book over 500 pages in 2024, and that's disappointing because I really do like a long book. In my 2023 top 10 reads of the year, I think about half the list were really long books, and I'm trying to course correct that in 2025. I want to read longer books, and I have already tackled my first chunkster of the year. I read Cloud Cuckoo Land, which is getting on for about 600 pages, so definitely on the right track there. There's also a split of fiction versus non-fiction here, and honestly, I read almost entirely fiction. It's 1% non-fiction, and even then 1% is a rounding up because I only read one non-fiction book out of 101 books in total, which was Killers of the Flower Moon. I'm kind of fine with that because fiction is what brings me joy. I probably should read a little bit more non-fiction, and I do have some on my shelves, so maybe I'll turn to some of that at some point this year. Looking then at the authors that I read in 2024, 87 of the authors were brand new to me authors, ones that I had never read before, and that was 18 more than in 2023. I don't really feel one way or another about this. I think it's quite cool that I'm becoming familiar with more and more authors, but I do think I need to make more room in my reading life to go back to authors that I really like. I've tried to do that a little bit this year, but I think I definitely need to be reading more Damon Galgut, Richard Powers, Percival Everett, Bernardine Evaristo, Barbara Kingsolver, and plenty more that I cannot think off the top of my head to reel off right now. Looking at my genre breakdown, sorry, don't know what happened there, but as I was saying, my genre breakdown looks very much like it did in 2023. The overwhelming majority of my reading is in literary fiction. My second most common, the eagle-eyed of you may spot that says contemporary, but I think it's supposed to be contemporary. LGBTQIA+, don't know why that's a genre, it's not really a genre. Historical, and then short stories at the bottom. I read 10 short story collections, which is a surprise to me. I didn't think that made up 10% of my reading, but apparently it did. And it might go some ways to explaining why I'm feeling a little bit short storied out right now. I don't feel like I want to pick up any story collections at the moment, and that probably is why. My longest book of 2024 was The God of the Woods by Liz Moore, which was 448 pages, but I actually read that on audio, which was just shy of 15 hours. It is interesting to me that my longest book of 2023 was also an audiobook. It was The Bee Sting, so maybe I'm just really into long audiobooks. And my shortest book, I, to be honest, hesitate to even call it a book. It's 43 pages. It's basically a short story that's been published as a standalone, and I think maybe a little bit of a rip-off. But it was Claire Keegan's So Late in the Day. The story graph also gives you quite a cool view of the books and pages you've read over the course of the year. This surprised me a little bit. I mean, it's fairly stable because I continuously read. But what surprised me is that August is like the dip in the year, but that's when the Booker Prize long list was announced. And so I would have expected that to be quite a high for me because I would have been doing a lot of reading to get through the long list. So I'm not quite sure why that is. You also get a view of the mood of the books that you are reading, and this looks like there is no line. It looks like there is just an axis at the bottom, but that is not just an axis at the bottom. That is the low mood of the books that I read, and probably indicative of the state of literary fiction. I shudder to think what you have to read to get your mood up here. Is it just like light and fluffy healing fiction that goes up in that high mood space? I have no idea, because I don't feel like I read the most depressing books in the world, so I don't know what to make of this. And then finally we've got my star rating. So last year my average rating was 3.82, which was 0.1 higher than in 2023. And last year I reflected that felt a little bit high to me, that maybe I was being a bit too generous, trying to see the good in every book, and that I could do with that rating being a bit lower. Clearly, I didn't know what I was talking about, because despite reading more books, I've given them even higher ratings. And by far, my most common rating is 4 out of 5. But yeah, I don't think this matters too much. We shouldn't be shooting for a specific average. I try to take each book as it is and reflect on how it makes me feel at the time that I read it, which might be different if I read it at a different time. So those were my reading stats, and now we can get on to the reviews. But I will first explain how this is going to work, because you may be looking at the length of the video and wondering, how on earth can you review 101 books in such a small amount of time? So here's how this is going to work. I'm going to run through every single book that I read in chronological order, and I'm going to review them in 5 words or fewer, because I'm only going to review a book in the same number of words as the star rating that I gave the book. So if a book got 2 stars, I'm going to review it in 2 words. And if a book got 5 stars from me, well, it's earned its full 5 words. I'm sure at this point you have questions. One might be, aren't these really shallow reviews? And I wholeheartedly agree that yes, they are. But I have reviewed every single book, or nearly every book, because I'm a little bit behind with my wrap-ups. I've reviewed all of these books in full on my channel, and you can find those reviews in my wrap-ups, my recent reads, or standalone reviews. I will link to the relevant playlist down in the description if you want to hear more behind these 5-word reviews. But for now, this is just a bit of fun and a really nice way to wrap up my reading year. You may also be wondering, what do I do about half stars? Well, the answer is, I just don't use them. And there's a couple of reasons for this. One is that I'm still maintaining both Goodreads and the story graph. And Goodreads doesn't have half stars or quarter stars, but the story graph does. And I don't really want them to fall out of sync, so I've just stuck to whole star ratings for now. I've also been very willing to go along with that, partly because it makes doing this video a lot easier. I think at some point I would like to bring half stars into the way that I rate books, but I'm not sure how to make it work and also be able to make this video, which is a lot of fun and a highlight of the year for me. So if anyone has any creative ideas about how I can still do this in a world of half stars, please do let me know. But until then, I will continue to bury my head in the sand. But without further ado, let's get on with it. So in January, I read 11 books in total, and I started the year with a New Year's Day novella. I read Eastbound by Mélis de Kerangal, translated from French by Jessica Moore. Masterclass Intention, 3 stars. And actually, I don't want to get too sidetracked, and I'm not going to do this for any other books, but I do think this one has really stuck with me, and I would probably, in hindsight, give it 4 stars. I must have started the year feeling very ungenerous. How I Won a Nobel Prize by Julius Taranto. Absurd, morally challenging, and yes, that is hyphenated, cancel culture consequences, 5 stars. Leave the World Behind by Rumen Alarm. Trash, 1 star. Jungle House by Julianne Pacheco. Glimpsing Our AI Futures, 4 stars. The Guest by Emma Klein. Undercover Swimming and Ennui, 4 stars. Good Material by Dolly Alderton. Breakup Capers, exceptional on audio, 5 stars. The Deloriad by Missouri Williams. Incestuous, grotesque, 2 stars. Killers of the Flower Moon by David Gran. Powerful investigation, thrilling, upsetting, 4 stars. And The End We Start From by Megan Hunter. Enjoyable, stylized dystopia, 3 stars. Then in February, I read another 9 books, starting with The Secret Lives of Church Ladies by Disha Filial. Incredibly voiced stories, unforgettable characters, brilliant, 5 stars. Pet by Catherine Chidgey. Tinderbox of tension, uncomfortable, engrossing, 5 stars. The House of Broken Bricks by Fiona Williams, interesting but simplistic, 3 stars. Severance by Ling Ma, post-apocalyptic capitalism, brilliantly skewering, 4 stars. The Rachel Incident by Caroline O'Donoghue, stunningly realistic, intense friendship, fun, 5 stars. The Night Alphabet by Joelle Taylor, beautifully poetic, absorbing, wild imagination, 5 stars. Erasure by Percival Everett, absurd publishing satire, fuck. If you've read it, you will know what I'm talking about, 4 stars. Witness by Jamel Brinkley, overlong stories, 2 stars. And Martyr by Kaveh Akbar, surreal, bold, poetic, messy, 4 stars. And then we have another 9 in March, starting with Julia by Sandra Newman, enjoyable 1984 companion piece, 4 stars. True Grit by Charles Portis, Matty Ross is an icon, 5 stars. Then I have some questions for you by Rebecca Mackay, many-threaded, and yes, that is hyphenated again, campus murder romp, 4 stars. The Wren by Anne Enright, beautiful but boring, 3 stars. Enter Ghost by Isabella Hamad, gut-wrenching, slow, unlikable, 3 stars. What I'd Rather Not Think About by Henty Postuma, translated by Sarah Timmer Harvey, Snippets of Grief, 3 stars. In Defense of the Act by Effie Black, complex topic, sensitive portrayal, 4 stars. Tom Lake by Anne Patchett, beautifully quiet story of nostalgia, 5 stars. And finally, The Details by Iya Yinaboya, translated by Kira Josephson, close examinations, forgettable, 3 stars. In April, I read 7 books in total, and I started the month with The Borrowed Hills by Scott Preston, transportive, darkly comic western, 4 stars. Hangman by Maya Binyam, strange, intoxicating, discombobulating journey, 4 stars. James by Percival Everett, darkly comic adventure, language's power, 5 stars. And Then She Fell by Alicia Elliott, excellent premise, poorly written, hyphenated again, 3 stars. Restless Dolly Maunder by Kate Grenville, 100% rooting for Dolly, and I am counting 100% as one word there, 4 stars. Ordinary Human Failings by Megan Nolan, complex families, scummy tabloids, 4 stars. The Spoiled Heart by Sanjeev Sahota, surprisingly gripping trade union election, 5 stars. Moving on to May, we've got another 7 books and actually quite a bit of Japanese fiction because that's when I went on my trip to Japan. But I started the month with Home Fire by Camila Shamsi, wonderfully tense retelling about radicalization, 5 stars. Mongrel by Hanako Footman, beautiful, emotional, intergenerational drama, 4 stars. Confessions by Kanae Minato, translated from Japanese by Stephen Snyder, drink the milk, 3 stars. Diary of a Void by Emi Yagi, translated from Japanese by David Boyd and Lucy North, went nowhere, 2 stars. In the Miso Soup by Ryu Murakami, translated by Ralph McCarthy, absolutely nuts, truly scarring, 4 stars. Strange Weather in Tokyo by Hiromi Kawakami, translated also from Japanese by Alison Markin Powell, gentle, boring, 2 stars. And then to finish the month, I read The Offing by Benjamin Myers, nature, grief, intergenerational friendship, stunning, 5 stars. Moving into June, and there are 8 books to run through in this month, starting with England Is Mine by Nicholas Padamsey, weirdly enjoyable, hyphenated, descent into radicalism, 4 stars. Breakdown by Kathy Sweeney, leaving can be funny, 4 stars. Headshot by Rita Bullwinkle, kinetic, breathless boxing romp, 4 stars. Brotherless Night by Vivi Ganeshananthan, harrowing civil war decimation, stunning, 5 stars. Boy with a Black Rooster by Stephanie Vore Schulte, translated from German by Alexandra Roche, fairy tale-like episodic adventure, beguiling, 4 stars. River East, River West by Aubrey Lescure, In Between Identities, historical ripples, 4 stars. The Coast Road by Alan Murrin, men can write women well, 5 stars. Orbital by Samantha Harvey, looping ruminations on humanity, 4 stars. Right, we are halfway through. I hope you are sticking with me, because in July, I've got 11 books that I read, and I started the month with Evenings and Weekends by Oisin McKenna, underbaked, ludicrous ending, 3 stars. Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin, gay melodrama, sumptuous prose, 4 stars. Greta and Valdin by Rebecca K. Riley. Fun, overlapping family dramas, 4 stars. First Love by Gwendolyn Riley. Deeply unsettling toxic relationship, 4 stars. Monstrilio by Gerardo Samano Cordova. Unhinged meditations on grief, 4 stars. Glorious Exploits by Ferdia Lennon. Hilarious, surprisingly moving, simply glorious. As much as I wanted to give this 6 stars, I've given it 5 stars. Anyone's Ghost by August Thompson. Poorly written dross, and that is hyphenated, so it's only 2 stars. Goodnight Tokyo by Atsuhiro Yoshida, translated by Hayden Trowell from Japanese. Fun little stories, 3 stars. The Death of Vivek Oji by Akwaeke Amizi. Complex portrayal of gender, 4 stars. Kick the Latch by Catherine Scanlon. Astounding voice, brutal, eye-opening, 4 stars. And Good Lord, an Email by Ella Frears. Ava's inbox is wild, 4 stars. 6 books for you in August, very much dominated by Booker Prize reading, and I began with Stoneyard Devotional by Charlotte Wood. Quietly moving, tense, beautiful, 4 stars. And I probably would upgrade this to 5 stars in retrospect, so maybe I need to reread it at some point. Held by Anne Michaels. Beyond Me, 2 stars. My Friends by Hisham Matar. Meditative portrayal of isolated friendship, 5 stars. The Safekeep by Yael van der Voden. Reads like a lost classic, 5 stars. Playground by Richard Powers. Saved by clever ending, 4 stars. And This Strange Eventful History by Claire Messard. Deep family portraits, 3 stars. And then September comes along and we've got another 8 books, finishing off some Booker reading and then moving into some other stuff. But we start with Enlightenment by Sarah Powers. Sarah Powers? Sarah Perry. Enlightenment by Sarah Perry. Starts strong, flounders, 3 stars. Creation Lake by Rachel Kushner. Amusingly useless spy, 3 stars. There by Tommy Orange. Tinderbox of tension, lands perfectly, 5 stars. Wandering Stars by Tommy Orange. Wide angle indigenous struggle, 4 stars. Amma by Saray Da Silva. Continent hopping, lovely family drama, 4 stars. Stories from the Tenants Downstairs by Sadiq Fafana. Stories, mixed bag, 3 stars. Placeholders by James Roseman. Love, Far From Home, 4 stars. And I finished the month with I Died at Fallow Hall by Bonnie Burke Patel, which I don't have my physical copy anymore because I gave it to someone else who I thought would really love it. Engrossing mystery, unguessable ending, 4 stars. We move then into the final quarter of the year and into my biggest reading month of the year, at least in terms of the number of books I read, because in October I read 12 books. And I started off with Sarah Manguso's Liars. Rageful, rage-inducing, motherhood, wifedom, 4 stars. We the Animals by Justin Torres. Poetic snapshots growing up, 4 stars. Ghost Roots by Pemi Agada. Some Stories Banged, 3 stars. A Visit from the Goon Squad by Jennifer Egan. Fantastic interconnected music industry stories, 5 stars. The Vegetarian by Hong Kong, translated from Korean by Deborah Smith. Withered at End, 3 stars. Heartstopper Volume 5 by Alice Oseman. Another cute Heartstopper instalment, 4 stars. The Material by Camille Bordas. Comedians Chew on Life, 4 stars. Recitative by Toni Morrison. Nobody Does It Like Morrison, 5 stars. So Late in the Day by Claire Keegan. Pretty but Slight, 3 stars. Reservoir Bitches by Dalia de la Cerda, translated from Spanish by Heather Cleary and Julia Sanchez. Marginalized Mexican Voices Resist, 4 stars. And The Party by Tessa Hadley. Sisters Party, Undercooked, 3 stars. 6 books then in November, and the first one is Hex by Jenny Fagan. Communing with 15th Century Witch, 4 stars. Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Duality, Creation, History Haunts, 4 stars. What I Know About You by Eric Shakur, translated from French-Canadian by Pablo Strauss. Same-Sex Desire, Heartbreak, Melodramatic Stunner, 5 stars. My Favourite by Sarah Jolyon Fardell, translated from French by Holly James. Long Reach of Trauma, 4 stars. All Fours by Miranda July. Perimenopausal Woman Gets Kind of Freaky, 5 stars. And Men Without Women by Haruki Murakami, translated from Japanese by Philip Gabriel and Ted Goosen. Weird, derogatory, 2 stars. And finally in December, I read 7 books in total. So I started with Milkman by Anna Burns. Troubles Swallow Life Whole, 4 stars. Of Cattle and Men by Ana Paula Maya, translated from Spanish by Zoe Perry. Unsettling, unflinching, dirty work, 4 stars. Margot's Got Money Problems by Ruthie Thorpe. Surprisingly gripping, OnlyFans dramedy, 4 stars. Mr. Loverman by Bernardine Evaristo. 60-Year Gay Affair, incredible voices, 5 stars. Zorri by Laird Hunt. A Beautifully Ordinary Life, 4 stars. Night Watch by Jane Ann Phillips. Absurd Coincidences, 2 stars. And I finished the year with Parade by Rachel Cusk. Frustratingly Try Hard, finishing with another hyphenation for you there, 2 stars. So that's a wrap on my reading year for 2024. I do think it's a nice little time capsule, if only just for myself, but I hope that you have enjoyed coming along for the ride with me. Do let me know in the comments if you have read and enjoyed or not enjoyed any of the books that I have talked about today. And feel free to drop a few of your own 5-word reviews because I would love to see them. If you liked this video, please do hit like because it really helps the channel out. And if you'd like to see more from me, well, hit subscribe and I release a new video about once a week. But until next time, toodles.